Hello. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you all are doing so well. I just wanted to pop in and try and share some of my thoughts and experiences around these energies, only because I think it's important to have some different perspectives at this time. These are my perspectives, my opinions at the end of the day, so if it doesn't fit for you, don't try and force it. I've been away for quite a while, and part of the reason is because I received so much information to try and convey the message is really, really challenging. Every day are all these little puzzle pieces that keep coming in, and it really didn't make much sense to try and package anything together or to try and speak about anything until now. And this past weekend, I know obviously was Lionsgate. It's a period of time that everyone seems to look forward to in the energy circles and the spiritual circles. It's never been something that has resonated with me. I never fully understood it. I never really felt it in my being to make space for that. In the last few years, I think I've had more of an awareness just because I hear people talk about it when we are coming to that point. But I'm just going to share my feelings. And there's a couple of things. Obviously, my work, my journey has mostly been around dark energies, controlling energies, the ways that we are enslaved. And it's a challenging place to have to work, especially when we are in new energy waves. And all of the messages that we receive about needing to be stable and in alignment and at peace, and this bouncing back and forth that we can experience having to work in these very dark places. And I think what always comes up through me and what I have struggled with over and over and over again is, well, do I really have to be in this place? Can I just not realign and say, okay, I'm going to move forward. I want to be in a place of joy and stillness and abundance and manifesting and, freedom and sovereignty and let's go and march forward. And it always feels like it's a possibility, and then things would come in and questioning over and over and over again. Like, where am I? Why is this happening? How do we just choose to be in one place or the other? Is it really a choice, right? All these things. Looking at the ins and outs of everything that is presented here in this realm. So, again, this has been my walk, my experience, my journey. So this is my perspective. And the way that I see it is that absolutely there are forces which are anti-human, which are against humanity. But we all have this energy within us as well. And this seems to be the big challenge, is holding this knowing and understanding that when we are looking at other people or situations or experiences, we are all fighting against the same thing. We all have the same struggle. It's just that, do we understand this? And we can name it many things, right? So even when I say these words, everything has an lying meaning to it. There's underlying programming to it. So if one particular way of me expressing doesn't fit, it's to be expected. Because these words, it's not pure energy, right? I mean, we can channel energy, we can channel purity, but when we are talking about things in the collective that we have seen, and we're trying to convey an understanding, we're having to use words and phrases which have been used over and over and over again, and they have been kind of rewritten many times with different experiences and understanding. So this is where I struggle, right? Because I want to express and say and speak, and yet I can feel in my mind all of the different variations within those words. If I could just sing you the tones, right? If I could sing, that's what I would do, because that to me is the most purest and clearest form of communication that we actually have. And hopefully one day that's the only way I will have to communicate. But until that moment, we have to struggle to break through all of these things that have already been set in place here within our minds and within our way of deciphering. So for me, what I have been on the journey of looking at is how the feminine energies, and by feminine I mean the energetic component that we all hold within us, those creational tones, right? The pure tones before we start to shape them into something that we desire, before it starts to evolve in a matter state, right? So it's pure clarity, that pure sensation, that pure feeling, that pure knowing, that energy, that feminine component. To me, and I call it the feminine principle, right? It's just that energy, and the possibility of that within each of us, that has been chained and tied down in this realm, and many other realms too, but we're understanding it here through the earth, within this particular framework and construct. And what I have seen, I see the energy field as it always shows to me as a pyramid or a temple, I'll call it. I know there, again, are a lot of words out there, a lot of references to temples and initiations and cycles, and that's not necessarily what I'm speaking about, because to me I see it mostly energetically. I've also come to understand Egypt as an undertone in our lives. I don't necessarily see it as a specific time and place here in Earth history. To me, Egypt really represents the body. And when we're talking about Egyptian energy in terms of distortion, it's the way the body, it's the way the divine human order has become enslaved. Whether that was actual physical events or events in other places in the cosmos or the universe, I don't totally know. Sometimes I see it as both. Sometimes I see it as something purely physical, purely energetic, right? And this is the other issue. We are multi-dimensional, multi-aspected, multi-perspected beings. And so when I see things one way, it doesn't mean the other way doesn't apply. Always apply at some point in time. Sometimes all, sometimes none. Sometimes a combination of a few. So the feminine principle has been enslaved within their own temple. The temple of the feminine has been used by other energies, and I do see these as being very dark and negative. Not necessarily something to be fearful of, but that is the other catch, right? We've been taught to be so fearful of these energies that we almost lose our mind over it and lose our kind of logical consciousness about how to interact, how to discern, how to manage and maneuver with these kinds of things. But essentially, this past Lionsgate portal was it. We have completely dismantled this enslavement of the feminine principle. So what has resulted? It's interesting how I wanted to say it. What has resulted as a cause of this dismantling I've seen it play out in two very distinct ways, and I want to talk about each of these. On the one hand, I've seen people saying, this is a dark attack, we're in a war. The dark, of course, is going to pull out all the stops because we're leveling up, and as soon as we try to level up, they're going to come after us to stop us. And I've seen the other side of it, which is I'm high flying. These energies are so wild. I feel like I can do anything. I'm so excited. Both ranges of these experiences, to me, there's something valid in each of them. And then there's also something very distorted in each of them, of course. It's very true. We've been right next to, and actually those dark energies have been within us and are within us again. But at the same time, what we are really experiencing is a reaction of that darkness being displaced off of these positions within the purity of the feminine energy, where before they had absolute power and control. When we would work with our energies, we weren't receiving the full benefit of it. It was being harvested and harnessed and harvested, siphoned, so that the harder we worked and the harder we tried, the less we actually received, because it's like there was a leak in the field where the pressure couldn't build up enough inside of us to serve us. And the other side of it, this kind of high-flying intoxication, right? To me, I was experiencing both. But with this kind of wild ride energy, felt like I had had too much caffeine. I felt very driven by something that wasn't internal. I felt like I was driven by something external to me, and it felt highly uncomfortable, and I felt very sick. I didn't like it. It felt like I hadn't eaten for a week and drank like 2 pots of coffee and maybe some crack or something in there too. It was quite awful to feel these things. And yet it's very much revealing, because this is the truth of these energies. If the feminine principle, the sun is peeking through here. I was trying to avoid that. But if we've been displaced and something is in our energy field, using our energy, of course we're going to be aware of that darkness. We're going to feel that. Because that is the energy that is harnessing and harvesting. The result of that occurring is this intoxication, right? It is sending this energy out in a very unhealthy way. In fact, in a way which is actually addictive, where we want more. We could say essentially this is what we see in the Matrix, right? It's not sourced from source. It's not pure light. It's not clear. There are other energies mixed in there. This is what keeps us coming back for more. This is what keeps us wanting more. It's not just in the 3D matrix. It's in our spiritual energies. It's in our healing realms. It's in everything. And this is part of what I've been looking at and working with, and this is really starting to annoy me. Okay, I had to move, trying to, hopefully we can get done before it gets too much more annoying here. But this is kind of par for the course, and this is what it's felt like the last several weeks, is just all of these kind of annoying invasions. I would get a couple of days of being really immersed in my energy, and then I would get bounced out by some kind of strange happening in my reality. But that's exactly the issue, right? We haven't been able to connect fully through our lower energy centers, right? Through, if we relate to this, the chakras, right? Through our own will, through our own discernment, through our own desire, we've been driven to connect through something else, something other than our own true selves. So, over the last few weeks, month or so, I would say, that has escalated, this sense of being interrupted. It's almost like this torturous harassment, right? And unexpectedly, it's not like, it's kind of like where they do the, I don't know what technique that is, right? But they wake you up at odd times, so you can't get the rhythm in the cycle, and you get very confused and disoriented, and that's what it's been like. And I'm just so happy and excited, because as this is coming out, it's like, oh my God, we can see exactly where this has been playing out in our lives. So it's really brilliant. But this is also a reclamation. You know, I know people will talk about an ascension process. Also something that doesn't totally resonate with me. They used to talk about ascension and initiations, spiritual rites and practices. Also something that really doesn't resonate with me in the sense that, now, there are healthy rituals, right? Healthy cycles. We are cyclical beings. This is the thing that is also coming up very strongly. But these are our own rhythms, our own cycles, our own experiences, things that we deem important, that we create our own kind of rituals and rites around, right? And this is the point. Rites, we could say R-I-G-H-T, we have rights to our own energy, and yet those were taken away through rites of R-I-T-E-S. So understanding that this has all come crashing down, and so there is a reaction from those dark energies, and there is a reaction from those who have been benefiting from those dark energies. And I'm seeing there's this pathway, which we've been seeing for quite some time, of our own light and our own energy. You know, these energies tend to say, we're all in this together, we're all connected, we're doing this together. One love, one world, one whatever. Parts of that are true. But there's also this other way, which is that if we, our own selves, are not fully connected to our own energy, it doesn't matter what we try to do with others. It will become distorted, because if we are not fully connected, it means there's something else in our energy field. So there's some kind of infiltration, there's some other kind of influence, and we will bring that over here, right? Similarly, if we're always in this place of, I am attacked, things are out to get me, there's negative controlling forces, and there's nothing we can do about it because there is this enslavement, we are going to continue to experience that as a reality, because while both of these are true, we are here in this human body, and this has been the goal, right? Full embodiment. So none of these, for my experience, in my opinion, and where I'm working, right? None of these other realities, truths, experiences, opinions, theories, whatever these are, fit for me. There's a third way. There is a middle ground. For me, it's the only way. It's my ground, it's my path. But in comparison to these other things, it's a different way. And this is where I am fully connected to myself, fully serving my light, what feels true and right and appropriate for me. I decide that. And of course, you know, then we can throw in all these other things. We're talking about coming from a place of pure integrity and intention when I say these things. Am I here just for myself? Of course not. Of course I want to assist others. Of course I want humanity to be free of this enslavement. But I can't do it if I myself am also enslaved in either of these other atmospheres or spheres of influence, right? The only influence that is really valid and important is my own. And if I'm wrong, I will continue to be shown that, because I will feel as if I'm suffering and struggling. And this is how we know, right? We are our own navigation system. And so when we say, oh my God, I'm being attacked. Oh my God, this energy's out of control. I'm feeling driven. That's not the purity of who we are. That is in accordance with something external coming in. And so if I continue to feel like I'm being attacked and things are happening, it's a sign that I need to look at something, and maybe there is something there I need to release from and look at more deeply, right? But that is not the ultimate ending or the ultimate placement. There is more available, right? And again, it shows to me as this pathway through the middle. But it's interesting, right? Because since Sunday, since Lionsgate, this pathway has been looking as if the lights have been dimmed a little bit. It's looking as if it's covered in ashes. What we are witnessing, right? And I've seen this as if there's all this to the periphery, and I see it, and I understand it, and I understand why people are there. I understand why those experiences are there. I have had those experiences myself. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect and this is like I'm out of this at all. What I'm saying is that I can see all of this, I can feel all of it, and I know I need to feel my way through a different path, and that's where I'm going. I have tried, tested, tasted, experimented, sampled all these other things that I thought were perhaps the answer or the way, and none of it worked for me. And so what I have learned, what I have been taught through my own experiences, is how to discern for my own self. That was one of the most painful lessons ever. Especially as someone, I feel like I only woke up not that long ago, right? Maybe 5 to 6 years. Had no concept of energy, no concept of spirituality, no concept of any kind of, other than religion. I had really no idea that anything else even existed here. So it was quite a shock. However, we find that most people have been asleep to specific ranges for a reason. So much has been covered because if we really knew what we were doing, and I say this, right, our energies are always exactly where they need to be. They are always doing exactly what they need to be doing. It's just the human that tries to understand and make sense of it all. It's interesting, actually. We've been seeing a lot of energies around the temple and the jaw, and the throat as well. I give up with the sun. It wants to come through. So, have I expressed anything I was wanting to talk about? My feeling on Lionsgate, I don't even see that when I look at it. I don't even understand what that means. What I see is where the darkness was within these temples, where this black umbrella, this black rod, this black staff, whatever it is, was collecting energy and transmitting it into the fields, right? This is this anti-life. And most predominantly, I experience it as that voice of self-criticism, the voice of self-hatred, the voice of others undermining me so that I question my own knowing, my own truth. This is how we experience it. This is anti-life. This is anti-human, anti-humanity. We all hold this. And it's up to us to find it within ourselves and to know it as this. It's not where we are failing within our own selves. People say, oh, your self-worth and your self-confidence and you need to love yourself. It's like, why is it so hard to love yourself? Because these energies are in here, but they're not who we are. They're not actually a part of us, but we have come to believe and know that they are. And then many of these teachings proclaim that we need to eradicate these things. We need to learn to love ourselves so that we can get out of these things. And that's, to me, is not the most accurate either. Yes, it's within ourselves. It's not a part that we need to learn to love or to hate. We need to see it as something that is not organic to us. And yet, it's within us. So it is a part of us. Right? It can be really complicated and confusing. And so, to try to speak to any of these specific things can be very daunting. And yet we find, and what I find with people I've worked with, I will say this over and over, it is a process. It is an experience. You cannot read it in a book and understand it or learn it. You can read it in a book and know you've had the experience, and so it resonates, right? You have felt something about that experience, and so it is familiar. But unless we walk it and truly embody it, we actually don't know and we don't understand. And so this is where we see all of this division out in the world and people saying, oh my gosh, we have to understand trauma and be trauma informed and listen to the victims and the survivors and listen to their message, and we need to hold people accountable. And while I believe that's true, it's also not the end of the road. This world is not about embracing trauma. Again, why does the trauma even exist? Because there are anti-life energies within all of us. And can we understand that? And can we embrace each other in this journey and process of learning and working through that? There is no ultimate truth here for all beings, except the fact that we are all source beings. And then even that, you might start to question at times, right? So everyone is at a different stage in their process. And we really don't know. What is anyone else's purpose? Why are they here? What are they trying to learn? No one knows everything. No one knows it all. We are all in just our own specific places. And I know it's very confusing and it feels very daunting, and then we look at what is out there in the physical world right now, and yet what we see energetically is a complete dismantling of these enslavement systems. So are we going to be seeing the fallout of this? Of course. And yet I had to ask myself today, a year or two ago, it was like, when is this world going to change? When is the end of the world finally going to come to wake people up? And what if it's here now? And did we expect that we wouldn't have to also walk through this alongside our fellow humans? Did we think that somehow we wouldn't be caught within the crossfire of it? And this is where I see a lot of people panicking right now. Did we think it wouldn't be our experience? We have to kind of go back and look, from several years ago. It's just an invitation to perhaps go into your own energy and to see what is true for you, outside of the influence of all of these external events. We've been through this kind of thing before, and that's the message I keep getting over and over and over again. We've done it before, we'll do it again, and we'll keep doing it for as long as it's required. For our own soul growth and evolution, for our own evolvement. And we're moving into a time, and this is really what I wanted to talk about mostly, is to say, I usually do not talk about time. Rarely does anything about timelines ever come to me, and yet today, I do want to say, from this day forward, we have about 13 months, so just over a year, where we will be clearing this out of our own fields. And how this works, at least how I've been experiencing it, everywhere that I have a fear pop up, it's like these little bubbles come up through the field. I have to look at those, because this is this residual energy of enslavement we have been carrying within us, within our bodies, within our energy fields. So we need a year, right, to walk through an entire cycle, to walk through all of the seasons, to allow all of this to come up, that we look at each of these instances with a pure and open heart and with compassion for our own selves, mostly, especially for our own selves. Because if we are in a state of confusion, anger, resentment, exhaustion, we transmit that out. It becomes our experience, and we can cause it to be the experience of others who are less aware, who more easily pick up influence from the external. So our job and our role is to walk that neutrality, that stability, that center way, listening, feeling our way through this. This is the work right now, is to allow for the releases, and we're able to release in a way that has never been possible yet within this lifetime. So in many ways it looks to me like many people would talk about Christ dying on the cross, being reborn, to save humanity from sin. I don't necessarily know about that, but there is something about this death and this rebirth that is very accurate. We have dismantled this old way, and I've always said it's like we get 2 lifetimes within 1 life, and this is what we are within right now. Instead of having to die and come back, we get to take everything that we have learned, and we get to. I need to. I hope you feel you need to as well. But we get to experience the opportunity of creating a whole new life. It's not that it's not going to be hard. It's not that it's not going to be confusing. It will be. This is brand new for everyone. No one has done this before here. So there is no one who has the answers. There is no one who can tell you how this is going to go for you. And in many ways, that is incredibly freeing, because we're all just a bunch of infants and toddlers trying to figure it out together. So my hope is that we can enjoy this, that we can experiment, that we can experience this rebuilding, this growth, this creation at the same level of consciousness, which is that we are free in a way we have never been free before. Perhaps it doesn't look or feel that way physically, but energetically we are. And where this is going, the most exciting part for me is how we will learn to use our brains, our consciousness, in what would seem at this point to be miraculous ways. And yet, so much of the divine human potential is completely untapped. So this is exciting. It's a whole new world waiting to be explored and opened up. And I hope you can feel that despite what you may be seeing and experiencing in the physical. Because we have burned down those old prison bars. And right now it looks like ash is falling from the sky. And right now it looks dark and like there's a lot of cleanup to do. And, the lights are turned off and we don't know which way to go. And in many ways that's true. But it's not the end of the story. It's just the beginning. So I hope you will start to rewrite your story in a way that serves you and your dreams and your desires and your best interest. The sun is ridiculous. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Take good care.